Am I the a-hole for no longer trusting my wife after she lied about sleeping at a friend's house? Plus 2 updates. My wife and I have been together for over 11 years, married for 8. I'm 44. She's 42. No kids by choice, but we've always had what people would call a solid marriage. We have a house in a quiet neighborhood, both work stable jobs. I'm an IT. She's a marketing manager, and we're the couple others come to for advice. At least, we were. Our lives weren't flashy, but they were full. Weekend road trips, quiet Sunday mornings with coffee and books, movie nights, and occasional group get-togethers with her friends or mine. There were fights, sure, but nothing major. Nothing that ever made me question our foundation. Until about 2 to 3 years ago. That's when everything started to shift. It happened casually. We were at a birthday party for one of our old college friends. A garden barbecue kind of thing. Lots of wine, laughter, old stories. At some point, I noticed her standing near the patio, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in a while. She was talking to a man I didn't recognize. Later, she introduced him. Oh wow, this is Mark. We lived together for a couple years before I met you. Remember me telling you about him? Vaguely, yes. I'd heard the name. Mark was the ex she dated during her late 20s, someone from their shared college-era friend group. According to what she told me early in our relationship, it was passionate but toxic. He didn't want to settle down, and she left when it became clear he wasn't going to change. He seemed polite enough. Firm handshake. A bit too smooth. Too familiar, maybe, but I didn't want to come off as the jealous husband. I shook his hand, made conversation, and tried to ignore the little knot forming in my stomach. After that day, Mark became a recurring name in our lives. First it was, hey, Mark's coming to the get-together this Friday. Is that cool? Then, I had lunch with Mark today. We talked about our old college group. So funny how things have changed. Then came the texts. I saw them pop up on her phone during dinner. LOL, that made me crack me up. Remember that night in Austin when Rachel got so drunk she tried to ride the fake bull? Harmless stuff, sure, but frequent. Too frequent. I brought up, cautiously. You and Mark talk a lot lately, huh? She brushed it off. Yeah, but it's all in the group chat. Everyone's reconnecting. It's nostalgic, nothing more. That's when I found out she had rejoined their old group chat, the one with all her college friends, Mark included. I didn't protest. I wanted to trust her. I did trust her. At least I tried to. Then came the night. The reason I'm writing this. It was a Saturday evening, about 3 weeks ago. She told me she was going out for drinks with the crew. I wasn't invited, apparently. It was just them catching up, and they hadn't seen each other in months. She left around 7 p.m., all dressed up, not overly sexy, but not casual either. That careful balance women wear when they want to look good, but act like it's effortless. I stayed in, played some video games, watched a movie. Midnight came, then 1 a.m. No texts, no calls. By 2:30 a.m., I called her, straight to voicemail. I texted, everything okay? Nothing. At 6:12 a.m., I woke up to a text. Hey, I crashed at Rachel's place. Too much to drink. Didn't want to drive. Love you. Red heart. Except I know Rachel. She's married with kids. Her house is tiny. And more importantly, she never lets people crash. I've heard her rant about it multiple times. I waited until my wife came home, around 10 a.m. She looked tired, hungover, smelled like whiskey and faint cologne. I asked, how was it? She said, it was wild. We had fun, just like old times. I didn't push, but something was off. So I checked her location history the next day. She had turned off her phone's location sharing, something we both used by default for safety. That had never happened before. I confronted her that night. Me, why'd you turn off your location? Her, I didn't realize it was off. Me, you always check mine when I'm late. It's never been off before. Her, pause. Okay, I turned it off. I didn't want you thinking anything weird if you saw I was at Mark's. Boom, there it was. I asked, stunned. You were at Mark's house? She nodded. It was late. I was too drunk. Rachel had to leave early, and Mark said I could crash in the guest room. That's all it was. I asked why she lied. Why she said Rachel's. She said, because I knew how it would sound. But nothing happened. I swear. He slept in his room. I slept in the guest. I just didn't want to deal with unnecessary drama. Unnecessary drama. That's what my marriage had become. I asked one final thing. Why didn't you just call me? She replied, I knew you'd be upset. I didn't want to fight. Since then, things have been tense. We sleep in the same bed, but barely talk. She avoids eye contact. I've become suspicious, paranoid, checking her phone when she showers. She changed her passcode. She claims she needs space and says I'm overreacting. But am I? AITA for not being okay with her sleeping at her ex's house, for losing trust in her, for doubting her story. She keeps saying, you either trust me or you don't. But how can I, when she lied about where she was, turned off her location, and only told the truth when cornered? I've asked some close friends. One said, bro, that's sketchy AF. Another said, maybe it's innocent, but the way she hid it. Yeah, nah. Reddit, I need help. Am I the asshole here? Update 1. Comments blew up. First of all, holy crap. I didn't expect this much feedback. Thank you truly. Some common questions. Did she cheat? I don't have hard evidence. No texts, no confessions. But the lying? That's enough to make me feel betrayed. Have I considered counseling? Yes. I've suggested it twice. She said she's not ready to sit in front of a stranger and get judged. Did she confess anything more? No. She's adamant nothing happened. But every time I bring it up, she gets defensive or shuts down. What do I want? I want to feel safe again. I want to know my wife wouldn't lie about something as serious as this. But right now, I don't have that. The days after our confrontation blurred together. We weren't fighting, not outright. But we weren't okay either. It was like there was this invisible fog between us. We go through the motions, talk about bills or groceries, and yet, I couldn't shake the weight on my chest. I'd wake up at night and just stare at her, lying next to me. Peaceful, familiar, and yet completely foreign. I started noticing things I hadn't before, like how she kept her phone face down at all times now, or how she'd smile at a text and walk into another room to respond, or how she no longer told me about her day, at least not the way she used to. It wasn't just what she was doing. It was what she wasn't doing. She didn't hold my hand when we watched TV. She didn't kiss me goodnight unless I initiated it. She didn't seem present. It was like she was somewhere else, with someone else. I needed answers, real answers. So I called Rachel. We weren't close, more acquaintances than friends, but she'd always been polite, warm even, whenever we crossed paths. I waited until my wife was out on a girls' night, again, not including me, and I called Rachel after dinner. Hey, it's James. Sorry to call out of the blue. Oh, hey, everything okay? Yeah, sort of. I just had a quick question. That night a few weeks ago, the one you all went out together, did my wife stay over at your place? Silence. Then no. She texted me saying she crashed at your place. You sure she didn't show up late? James, she didn't stay with me. I actually left early that night. Mark drove me home. Mark. Of course. I thanked her and hung up. My hand was shaking. I wasn't even surprised. I think some part of me already knew. It wasn't the lie anymore that hurt the most. It was the effort she put into it. The detail. The confidence. Like she'd done it before. Like she could do it again. That night, when she got home, I didn't wait. I sat her down in the living room. I talked to Rachel. I said. She froze. Her purse still dangling from her shoulder. She said you didn't stay at her place. That she left early. That Mark drove her home. A long pause. Then she closed her eyes, took a breath, and said the words I'll never forget. Okay. Yes. I lied. But nothing happened. I didn't say anything. I just let the silence hang. She sat down across from me, suddenly small, suddenly fragile. I panicked, she continued. It was stupid. I was tipsy. And when Rachel left, Mark offered me a place to crash. I didn't want to deal with your questions, so I lied. But that's it. I swear, James. Nothing happened. Why didn't you tell me afterward? I asked. You had so many chances. Why let me believe the lie? She looked down. Because once I said it, I didn't know how to take it back. And because I knew it would hurt you. Even if nothing happened, it looked bad. And now I've made it worse. I wanted to believe her. God, I did. But I couldn't ignore the other signs. The secretive texting. The distant attitude. The changed password. I asked about those too. She insisted she'd just been needing space. That work had been stressful. That our relationship had felt stagnant for a while. So I asked the hardest question of all. Are you in love with him? She didn't answer right away. Then she said, no. But her eyes were wet. And she couldn't look me in the face. I waited until the next day, when she was out again, to try something desperate. I used an old trick. I guessed her new passcode. Birth year reversed. Bingo. What I saw wasn't explicitly damning. No nudes. No I love yous. But the tone, the emotional intimacy, devastating. Mark, last night reminded me of the old days. You still look incredible in that green dress. Winky face. Her. Ha, you're trouble. But thank you. It was fun. We needed that. Mark, you can always talk to me. I get you in a way no one else does. Her. You always did. Sometimes I think about how different things would be if we'd worked out. My stomach dropped. There were dozens of these exchanges. Late-night musings. Inside jokes. A digital intimacy that belonged to them. Not her and I. I screenshot everything and sent it to myself. Then I turned off her phone and put it back exactly where I found it. This time, I didn't hold back. I showed her the screenshots. She didn't even deny it. Instead, she just cried. Said she was confused. That Mark made her feel seen. That she didn't mean for it to go that far emotionally, but it just happened. He's not you, she said through tears. But sometimes I wonder if we settled into something safe, and I miss feeling wanted. Like, really wanted. That hit like a freight train. I told her I didn't want to be her safety net while she explored emotional affairs with ex-boyfriends. She said it wasn't like that. I said, then what is it like? Explain it to me. She had no answer. I showed the screenshots to my friend Evan. His response was immediate. Bro, that's emotional cheating. Full stop. Doesn't matter if they didn't have sex. She betrayed you. I talked to my sister. She said, this is how it always starts. They reconnect. They flirt. And suddenly they're just friends sleeping at each other's houses. Even Rachel texted me after hearing what happened. Her message was simple. I'm sorry. I thought she'd be honest with you. Mark is not a good guy. He knows what he's doing. I started feeling like I was the last one to wake up in a nightmare that had already been going on for months. I convinced her to try couples counseling. The therapist asked us to write down what we wanted from the marriage. My list was simple. Honesty, transparency, trust, real intimacy. Her list, clarity, space, identity, time. It felt like we were living two different lives under the same roof. The therapist asked if she had feelings for Mark. She finally admitted it. I don't know. Maybe a little. But I haven't acted on them physically. That has to count for something. The therapist looked at me and said, how does that make you feel? I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. How does it make me feel? It makes me feel like a placeholder. Like a backup plan. Like an idiot. That night, we slept in separate rooms. I stared at the ceiling and realized, this is not love anymore. This is decay. I don't know if she slept at all. The door stayed shut. In the morning, I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and wrote her a note. I'm not your safety net. I'm not your therapist. I'm not your excuse. I'm your husband. Or I was. If you want to save this, you need to fight for it. And if you're not willing to do that, we both deserve better. I left it on her nightstand and went for a drive. When I came back, she was gone. The note was still there, untouched. I didn't plan it. But one evening, I saw Mark at a local coffee shop. Alone. On his laptop. Something in me snapped. I walked over before I could talk myself out of it. Mark, I said. We need to talk. He looked up, slightly startled, then smiled. James, right? I sat down. I know everything. He leaned back, then closed his laptop. That's vague. But I'm guessing you're referring to your wife. I clenched my jaw. You knew she was lying to me. You let her use Rachel as an excuse. You helped her cheat. Emotionally, at the very least. He shrugged. She's an adult. She makes her own choices. I didn't force her to come over. And I didn't touch her, if that's what you're worried about. You manipulated her. Or maybe I just reminded her of who she used to be, he said, voice calm. Before she got boring. That did it. I stood up, fists clenched, pulse pounding in my ears. But I didn't swing. Because that's what he wanted, to drag me down to his level. So I just leaned in and said, whatever she sees in you, it's not real. It's nostalgia. You're a chapter she should have left closed. Then I walked away. And for the first time in weeks, I felt a sliver of control return. When I got home, she was waiting for me. She must have talked to him, or maybe she could just read it on my face. You saw him, she said softly. I did. And he's exactly the kind of man I hoped you were over. She didn't argue. I don't even know who you are anymore. I added. I don't either, she whispered. We talked for hours. About everything. About how she felt like she'd lost herself in our marriage. How motherhood never came for us. And that left a hole. How she missed being someone's first choice, not just their stable plan. How reconnecting with Mark made her feel young and exciting again, even if it was wrong. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said through tears. But I think, deep down, I needed to blow it all up. Because I didn't know how else to say I wasn't happy anymore. That hurt worse than anything. Not because she was unhappy, but because she didn't tell me. She let it rot quietly. She let it fester. Until it broke. Until we broke. We didn't scream. We didn't slam doors. We just unraveled. Gently. Painfully. Like stitching coming loose on something you used to wear every day. We filed the paperwork together. Dividing assets was surprisingly civil. We didn't own much that wasn't shared. The hardest part was the memories. The house. We sold it. The wedding photos. She packed them into a box and left them in the garage. The dog, Jasper, stayed with me. She didn't fight it. Said he was always more mine than hers. Friends took sides, of course. Some reached out in awkward sympathy. Others just faded away. My sister helped me move into a small apartment on the east side. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Quiet. Lonely. Free. You don't realize how much a person fills a space until they're gone. I kept reaching for a second coffee mug in the morning. I'd instinctively check my phone to see if she texted me to pick up milk, before remembering she didn't live here anymore. Music hurt. So did certain restaurants. So did Tuesdays, for some reason. That used to be our cheap taco night. I unfollowed her on social media, then followed her again, then muted her posts entirely. She looked happy, or at least like she was pretending well. Eventually, I saw a photo of her and Mark together, smiling, at a winery. It was like a punch to the ribs, but instead of breaking me again, it just clarified everything. I was no longer in that world, no longer part of her story, and maybe that was okay. I started therapy, something I wish I'd done years earlier. I told my therapist about everything, from the first lie to the final box she carried out the door. She said something that stuck with me. You didn't fail. You were just married to someone who outgrew the story she was supposed to be in, and she didn't have the courage to say it. It didn't make the pain disappear, but it helped me redirect it. I picked up old hobbies, started running again, joined a local photography group. I even went on a few dates. Nothing serious, but enough to remind me the world hadn't ended. It had just restarted. Nearly a year after the split, I got a text from her. Hey, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I wasn't fair to you. I hope you're doing okay. I stared at it for a long time, then typed. Me, I am. I hope you are too. I didn't ask about Mark. I didn't ask if she regretted it. I didn't need to, because by then, I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. Update. Am I the a-hole? Wife spent the night at a friend's house, she lied. Hi Reddit. It's been about a year since my original post. I never updated, but a few people reached out, so here it is. Short version. My wife lied about staying at her friend's house. Turns out she stayed at her ex's place, the same guy she reconnected with 2 years ago. She denied anything physical happened, but admitted to developing feelings and lying to me about where she was. We tried therapy. We tried to talk. But ultimately, she admitted she wasn't happy and hadn't been for a while. We got divorced 6 months ago. It was hell. I won't sugarcoat it. But it was also the best thing that could have happened. Because I realized I was holding on to a version of her that no longer existed. A version of us that had long since withered. Now, I've moved into my own place. I run, I hike, I read again. I take photos of sunrises. I've started to feel like myself again. Maybe even a better version. She's with him now. Maybe it'll last. Maybe not. But that's not my business anymore. To everyone who commented, DM'd, or even just read, thank you. Seriously. You helped me realize I wasn't crazy, that I deserve truth and loyalty, and that it's okay to walk away, even from something that once meant everything. So no, I'm not the asshole. I'm just a man who loved deeply, lost painfully, and learned slowly. And now, I'm healing. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell if you want more content like these.